Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of On Point EDC. We have a very cool knife for you guys today from Kaiser Knives. A little bit about the brand. Kaiser was founded in 2012. They produce knives that are made in China, but of an extremely high quality. Their market segment, if I was to put it in a nutshell, I would say that they produce high-end knives at mid-range prices. So there's definitely a lot of bang per buck there. If I was to characterize this particular knife into a certain style of knives, it would be a titanium frame lock folding knife. For that category of knife, some key common characteristics are going to be that Chris Reeve style integral lock, which is just an evolution of the Walker liner lock. So you'll see a titanium handle and some type of integrated frame lock, which is normally what a lot of people call it, which essentially means that the lock bar is going to be part of the side scale versus being a liner that's kind of sandwiched in the middle. So let's go ahead and zoom out and pick this up. But before we do, customary wristwatch check. As you can see, I'm wearing my SRP 773 Turtle reissue on this great new strap code Solid Super Jubilee, and I've updated the clasp to the Marine Master ratcheting clasp. So as you can see, really nice dive extension there, built in, just really cool. And if my wrist gets a little swollen in the heat or anything like that, I can give it a couple clicks out and it fits pretty nicely still. So expect to see a review for this particular strap. The review for the watch has been up for a while, so if you guys are interested in that, make sure you check it out on the channel. But let's go ahead and move into this outstanding knife from Kaiser. So this particular model is called the Ursa Minor, and it's basically a production spin-off of the Ray Laconico designed Baby Bear custom knife. You might recognize the handle basically because you've seen it before on the Kizer Gemini. Now the Gemini is also one of my favorite flipping knives, and I have one. I'll pull it into frame later on, but just to point out a couple of the key differences over the Gemini between the Ursa Minor, just so you kind of know, maybe if you already have a Gemini, or if you're deciding between the two. The main difference is that out of the box, you're going to get a very nice milled pocket clip. The finish on the handle is actually a bit brighter. And then the blade is actually, besides looking different and being a different design, it's actually specs-wise, it's about 1 millimeter thicker, which means that back spacer and the locking bar and everything basically in between is going to be that much wider to accommodate, which just makes for an overall larger feeling knife. Although, pretty much every other spec is going to be on point with the Gemini. So this particular knife is a Carmel Cutlery exclusive, so you can only get them at Carmel Cutlery. So make sure you check them out. I put a link in the description below. Definitely very cool to support, a nice family-owned business. This isn't a huge corporation, so very, very cool that they are kind of the exclusive vendor for the Kizer Ursa Minor. The price on these is about $190, and I gotta say it's well worth every penny. So let's go ahead and kind of see why. So as you can see, the blade shape, it is a drop point with kind of a harpoon style accent to it there. As you can see, nice little cut. I don't know, I guess I wouldn't call it a cutout or a slice up, but basically it has that nice kind of harpoon, I guess we'll call it a cutout. So I think it looks really great and adds a lot of visual interest and makes this knife and the blade look so much more dynamic. So this is using CPM Crucible S35VN premium stainless steel, which is definitely a very nice steel choice. It's a blade steel that's pretty much doesn't really have any compromises. It's basically, you know, across the board, it's going to be strong. It's going to be corrosion resistant. It's going to have, you know, good edge retention. So it's definitely a really great choice and one of my favorite blade steels. So as you can kind of see here, it uses it has a hollow ground finish on it, and with it's also stone washed. It's pretty sharp out of box, and then the handle is titanium and bead blasted. As far as the dimensions go, they were in the beginning of the video, but one thing I will touch on again is that the weight on this is about 4 ounces flat. So it wouldn't call it a super light knife. It's definitely not a heavy knife for what it is though. So very cool knife. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the ergonomics in hand. Really, really nice. You know, the flipper becomes a nice little finger guard there, as you can see. And then the thumb really rests nicely in this harpoon groove there, which is really good. So you can really choke up on it. Really nice control. You know, of course, it doesn't have all the crazy contouring, you know, you'll see in some other knives, but I feel like it's just so smooth. It just feels really great and natural and still easy to kind of lock in without, you know, any of those extra gimmicks or tricks or cutouts that, you know, may make a knife feel really good in hand, but sometimes take away from kind of the visual design. I feel like this is a really nice balance of form and function. So as far as the action goes, I mean, this thing is outstanding. I have to say this is probably the best deployment action on a production knife I've seen. You know, as you can see, it just wants to close, and it's on ceramic bearings for the pivot, and I mean, this thing is just outstanding action on here. So really, really impressed with that. The blade just wants to fall closed. Oh man, beautiful, beautiful action. Very satisfying. You know, the detent I feel is just really dialed in. It's not super strong or harsh or anything like that. So what's nice is on the close, you know, the lock bar, it's not like it's really dialed super tight. It still can be opened pretty nicely without putting any pressure on your thumb. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful knife action-wise. I mean, apart from the looks, if you're an action junkie, this could be the knife for you. So also, just to note, it works well with a light switch action as well as push button. So, I mean, I prefer light switch on this one though. And you know, of course, the opening's good, but the closing is what's surprisingly good. So really nice. So in pocket, this, of course, is going to lay pretty flat. You know, it is pretty unobtrusive, I'd say. It's not like it takes up a lot of room. It's only taking up a little bit more room than the Gemini, of course. But, you know, I think it's, for what it is, you know, it does fit a lot of blade into that handle, so it does maximize kind of the room that it has, and it doesn't have a bigger footprint than it needs. So basically, as far as model variants go, I mean, you would definitely compare it to the Gemini, and you know, it also has a similar blade to the Intrepid, which is also a really nice Kaiser knife. So let's actually bring out the Gemini right now. So one of the things, let's go ahead and this particular Gemini actually has a mill pocket clip that I added to it, aftermarket. Well, I guess it's not really aftermarket. Just maybe after the fact. I had contacted Kaiser via email, and they sent one out to me free of charge, which was pretty awesome. So, you know, one of the worries I think a lot of people have with brands like Kaiser that are based overseas is, you know, what is the customer service going to be like? And I have to say the customer service has been pretty outstanding in any situation thus far. I actually got some new hardware from them. They sent it out free of charge. Yeah, I did have to wait for it to come from overseas, but you know, they really had no questions asked, besides, you know, for my address, and they pretty much sent me any little part that I wanted thus far. So as you can see in the finish, there's just a much brighter blast that's on the Ursa Minor versus the more dull look on the Gemini. And I don't think that's not knocking the Gemini. I think the Gemini is, oh, got a little bit of sweat on there. I think the Gemini is definitely a great looking knife. It's almost a little bit too plain, you know, but I mean, it's just one of those knives that sits well in the hand. I actually plan on doing a separate video just focusing kind of on the Gemini as well. And but I did want to get them here so you could kind of see the difference. And as you can see, it is slightly, I don't know if you're going to be able to notice right off the camera there that there is a slight thickness that has been added to the Ursa Minor. But these are both outstanding knives, and I'd say one of the things that really steps up, you know, the Ursa Minor over the Gemini is because of the extra weight now that's been added from this blade. It actually is what adds to that closing action. Now, opening wise, you know, also still amazing, very snappy, very fast acting right there. But to close, although it is very smooth, that knife blade is just a little bit lighter, so it's just going to require a little bit more wiggling to get down, or, you know, it doesn't really require anything. This thing wants to slam down, but it doesn't have that same kind of feeling of refinement, I'd say, that the Ursa Minor has. And then also with the blade shape itself, although I love you know, a full flat grind, the hollow grind and then this kind of nice harpoon shape that's on there just adds a little bit more visual interest to the knife, and it really just adds so much character. So that's one thing to add. As far as, you know, kind of size wise, what would be comparable, that's a little bit more mainstream, would be something like the Domino from Spyderco. So as you can see, size wise, pretty close in size. You know, the Domino's a little bit longer, but it actually has much less cutting edge. You know, also frame lock. You know, this one's, I've modified a little bit with some blue titanium screws and this nice little pocket clip here. And, you know, I added a little 550 cord lanyard. And this is, of course, the blue lightning strike carbon scale version. But as far as size goes, you know, it is pretty similar to the Domino. So just so you kind of get a look at that. But as far as kind of action goes, you'd probably want to compare it to this guy. I mean, this is the gold standard pretty much in production flipping action. The 0450 from Zero Tolerance. This is my, of course, little personalized one that I've swapped out to a carbon fiber side scale and a milled pocket clip, and then little titanium, blue titanium standoffs. There's actually a new ZDP version of the 0450 that's out now that looks very similar to this knife, of course, you know, minus the milled pocket clip. Otherwise, it definitely looks very similar. But action-wise, you know, this is kind of the standard, and it's great detent, nice and dialed in, just never misfires, not a chance. This thing is going to open every time, and it's going to open satisfyingly every time. So I would compare that action to the 0450. I think it's definitely very similar. The size is very similar as far as the length goes. It's just a little bit thicker. So I'd say, you know, if you want to talk a little bit more about the size, and kind of the shape here, I'll bring in, you know, this really great lion steel TRE, which I feel, you know, probably looks wise, silhouette wise, it's very similar to the Gemini, you know, in kind of blade shape and having a bit of a wider handle versus the more, you know, stick shaped handle. But some things that it actually shares with the Ursa Minor is, it actually has that kind of harpoon detail here. It's not completely cut out. It's more just like a harpoon swedge. But that does add some of that visual interest. And I'd say also, with, coming with a milled pocket clip and that solid titanium backspacer, and just the level of contouring that's done in this titanium, right? Versus, so let's say something like this, which is just a flat piece of titanium, really still nicely finished and really well beveled and everything. Now, the handle on the Ursa Minor is going to have a lot more contouring, which of course is going to be harder to do and harder to do well. So that's a real testament to the skill set of Kaiser knives, because they're able to produce, mass produce something like this, at this level. It just speaks volumes. So as you can see, it's really nicely rounded. It almost feels like like a skipping stone in your hand. It just has that really smooth, natural feel, and just has a very nice organic, look to it, which I really enjoy. So I guess size-wise, we can get all these out here and just kind of take a look how these lay. I don't want to put them the other way because it might play with the kind of the way things look, because of the camera is gonna throw the scale off. But from this angle, I think it gives you a little bit more true feeling of the size wise of kind of how they look. I can zoom in a little bit here, and as you can see, they're all pretty close in size. The Domino definitely has more handle there, and then on the other end of the spectrum, the TRE is definitely a little bit smaller. I feel like if they would have made the TRE in the size of of the Gemini or Ursa Minor, this could have been my favorite knife. It's just really, I mean, the action needs a little work. It's very smooth to close, but it just has a really small flipper. And also the action just isn't quite as snappy or satisfying. That detent, I think, just needs a little bit of work. But other than that, I mean, this is an outstanding, just the finishing, and it's an M390. Great blade steel. M390, I'd say, is kind of just a stepped up version of S35. And basically, instead of being 4s and 5s across the board, this is just going to be 5s across the board, as far as, a blade steel that doesn't have any compromises. So I'll go ahead and take this off camera here. Now, 0450 again, great. I mean, compared to action-wise, bang per buck, at about 150 bucks, in base form, this is definitely a great piece. And a handsome piece at that. And so if you're into something that's a little bit more slim and a little bit more kind of almost a tactical kind of look to it, the 0450 is still going to be the go-to. Now, for the Domino, this is a very polarizing knife. Not everybody likes it, but some people really love them. This is probably one of my favorite knives. I mean, I feel like the ergonomics are just really outstanding. You can't really argue with that. It's a Spyderco, so it's gonna feel good in hand and it's gonna be finished well. But we're here to talk about Kaiser and these two bad boys right here. I mean, to me, these are the kind of production knives of the year. Just outstanding fit and finish, great design from Ray Laconico, who just is always knocking them out of the park. He just makes very simple designs that have that beautiful, kind of beauty and simplicity. They don't need a lot of bells and whistles. It's just, it's a cutting tool first, and then it's, because it's just so finely crafted, it ends up kind of being a piece of pocket art as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like. Thanks, guys. Bye.